up on AC 24/7. As tragedy hits an elementary school in Nashville, Joe Biden and Democrats are calling for gun control changes. Plus, as finance experts face Capitol Hill, what exactly caused the recent Silicon Valley bank collapse and what Congress plans on doing moving forward. And the FDA announces that Narcan will be available over the counter and how that will help with opioid-related overdoses. Hey there, welcome to AC 24/7. I'm your host, Lamar Baldwin. Lawmakers are again calling for gun control after tragedy struck Nashville, Tennessee. President Joe Biden is calling for Congress to make changes regarding the issue. The Advocate Channel's John Lawrence reports.
As Nashville mourns the loss of 3 children and 3 adults who were killed in Monday's school shooting, some lawmakers in Washington, D.C. are calling for action.
We must pass meaningful gun safety legislation and need to look at every possible way to do so. We must give families the peace of mind to send their kids to school without fearing for their lives.
Including the Nashville incident, there's been at least 130 mass shootings in the U.S. this year, according to data from the Gun Violence Archive.
We know that a ban on assault weapon sales can work. We know it from Connecticut. We know also that inaction won't work anymore for Americans.
President Joe Biden wants Congress to work on an assault weapon ban. However, Republicans are in charge of the House, and there's little to no support for weapon restrictions, which some say infringe on constitutional rights.
On the other side, all they want to do is take guns away from law-abiding citizens. Before they even know the facts, the first thing they talk about is taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. And that's not the answer, by the way.
While others in the GOP have a wait-and-see attitude.
With respect to any discussion of legislation, it's premature. There's an ongoing investigation, and I think we need to let the facts come out.
I'm John Lawrence reporting.
U.S. Senate Chaplain Barry Black spoke out against the Covenant School shooting, saying he believes we can do more. Black opened up in a recent legislative session with a prayer for lawmakers to, quote, move beyond thoughts and prayers. When asked what he meant by the statement, the Senate chaplain said the following.
Well, I think moving beyond thoughts and prayers, it means doing something. Praying is doing something, but it is ethereal. The first Psalm, verse 3, talking about the happy believer, says, whatever he or she does will prosper. God prospers what we do. And so we have to begin to try some things that may be counterintuitive.
Black has been a Senate chaplain since 2003. This call to action comes during a heated time of gun debate amongst both parties. President Biden also called on Congress to pass an assault weapons ban to, quote, make some more progress. The Senate voted 66-30 to repeal the 1991 and 2003 authorizations for use of military force against Iraq. The bill must now be approved by the House before going to the president's desk for his signature. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has signaled support of the bill and said it would likely be brought to the House floor. The authorizations have been used far beyond the original scopes by both President Donald Trump and Barack Obama, allowing them the power to make additional strikes against Iraq. A bipartisan group of senators have introduced a bill requiring bank executives to return their compensation if their banks fail. The proposed legislation would empower federal regulators to hold executives of failed banks responsible for the failures on the bank system and the economy. The FDIC would have to retrieve all or part of the pay executives would have gotten before the bank failure. According to legislation, bank holding company investors would also have to bear the losses. Federal financial regulators are on Capitol Hill to discuss the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and the Signature Bank. The Advocate Channel's Chris Nugent reports.
Banks should be On Capitol Hill, U.S. financial regulators testifying Tuesday before the Senate Banking Committee as lawmakers in both chambers of Congress launch formal investigations into what caused the second and third largest bank collapses in U.S. history earlier this month.
The quick collapses of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank were no ordinary failures.
Michael Barr, a top U.S. Federal Reserve official, says the meltdown at SVB started at the top.
This is a textbook case of bank mismanagement.
Barr testified that SVB had been on the Fed's radar since November 2021 when it was cited for interest rates and liquidity risks.
They didn't take the action necessary. They were quite vulnerable to risk, to shocks, and they didn't take the actions necessary.
The bank, he says, collapsed after depositors tried to withdraw $100 billion in a single day, driven by social media and mobile banking.
The bank did not have enough collateral to meet that. And therefore, they were not able to actually meet their obligations to pay their depositors over the course of that day, and they were shut down.
While the federal government stepped in to guarantee deposits at the two failed banks and set up a facility to help prevent runs at other banks, some lawmakers demanding regulators take further action to prevent a similar banking crisis in the future.
If it's the regulator's fault, it better be fixed. If it's the regulation fault, it better be fixed.
The congressional investigations into the financial sector's instability come as fears of recession are mounting. In Washington, I'm Chris Wynn.
The World Health Organization vaccine experts have recently revealed healthy kids and teens may not need another COVID-19 shot. The revised recommendations from WHO's Strategic Advisory Group of experts on immunization say the new recommendations are for children from the ages of 6 months to 17 years old and considered low risk. The group says countries can consider different factors to suggest doses of specific populations and advise families to catch up on routine childhood vaccinations. WHO is also recommending additional boosters for high-risk populations that have not received one in 6 months to a year. With the opioid crisis steadily on the rise, the FDA has approved overdose prevention drug Narcan to now be available over the counter. The Advocate Channel's Mandy Gaither reports.
It's a crisis in America. The CDC says deaths from opioid overdoses rose more than 17% in just 1 year, from about 69,000 in 2020 to more than 81,000 in 2021. But now, for the first time ever, the Food and Drug Administration has approved an opioid overdose antidote for over-the-counter use.
If you come across a person who is unconscious or it appears that they might not be breathing and you have reason to suspect that it's related to an overdose, you can save a life with Narcan.
The nasal spray will come in 2 4-milligram doses in case the person overdosing doesn't respond to the first dose. It will be sold in places like drugstores, convenience stores, grocery stores, gas stations, and online. Addiction psychiatrist Trent Hall with the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center says administering Narcan is simple.
Step 1, check. Wake up. Step 2, give first dose of Narcan. Call 911. It's possible for a person to experience another overdose, even without taking more opioids. And so staying with them until the ambulance arrives gives them the best possible chance of survival.
Nearly every state in the U.S. allows pharmacists or other qualified organizations to provide Narcan without a personal prescription to those at risk of an overdose, but making it available over the counter may make it easier for people to access this opioid antidote. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Los Angeles Angels baseball star Shohei Ohtani is set to become the MLB's all-time highest earner this year. According to Forbes, the star pitcher and designated hitter is estimated to make $65 million this upcoming season. The Angels gave the 28-year-old a 1-year, $30 million extension during the 2021 season. Ohtani is also set to make roughly $35 million off the field through his sponsorship deals. Thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. For more content that advocates to you, go to advocatechannel.com and make sure you follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For the Advocate Channel, I'm Lamont Baldwin.